I consider one of the most promising. The fruit looks exactly, I mean the flavor looks exactly like the mangosteen. And then with the difference, the shell or the skin is very thick, so we can keep this fruit for weeks without spoiling and without damaging during transportation. So I consider very promising. There are more than one species. Probably the grandiflora one has got a little bit larger fruit and it's just as good. So I consider this very promising. Besides those, along with those Sapotaceae that I told you. This is Borojos sorbilis, is in the Rubiaceae family. It's very well known in Central Amazon. People commercialize this in regular feiras, and it's already used in that area. Ketarda angelica doesn't have much to it, but the people like it because it's nice with some potential as a fruit tree. In the semi-rubiaceae family, you have Savicia guianensis. It's like a blueberry. You can eat the whole fruit, skin, and the seed cortices are very small, and the skin is very thin. So it's more like kids' fruit along the roads, along the race. This is another Rubiaceae family, the Randia species. It's fairly good. The Melicoca, we have another Melicoca over there in the Pantanal region. It produces very good fruit, but not big. The local people eat and like it, so it can be considered potential for use as a fruit. Okay, in the Sapotaceae family, we have another Thalysia, not the one that you already know here, Thalysia esculenta, but Thalysia intermedia. I particularly consider better than Thalysia esculenta. It's from eastern part of the country, and the state of Espírito Santo. It's a very nice tree, very dense ground, and potentially very interesting.
Is it self-fruitful?
Beg your pardon?
Is it self-fruitful? Is it self-fruitful?
Self-pollinating.
So monoecious?
Yes, it does. Yeah, because I harvest, usually we find this fruit in isolated trees. And, I believe it's a self-pollinating. Okay, Sapotaceae family, as I told you, is the second most important one. I would like to start with this unknown fruit tree, Phyllum imperiale. This plant's got an story. This image is not mine because I never saw the fruit of this plant. This tree was named in honor of one of our old emperor of Brazil in the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s. This tree was so much loved by this Dom Pedro I and Dom Pedro II emperor that it usually spread this plant all over the world. And there are plants of this species in Buenos Aires, Lisbon, and the only one that produces fruit is the one in the City Botanical Garden in Australia. In Brazil, there's one right there at the Campon, but it's short, it's not produced yet. In Brazil, we know only one plant in the southern part of Brazil. It set seed, flowers, but never fruit. So I'm trying to find this plant in fruit. We don't know if he loves this plant because of the shape of the tree or because of the fruit is good. Because I've never heard any word about the fruit, it's good or not. So what we know that the emperor of Brazil loved this tree. There is one Portuguese guy in Portugal writing a book on the history of this plant, but it's almost known in Brazil, probably extinct in Brazil. Okay, not exactly. You know, what we heard is that when the Republicans took over in 1880s, 89, um, they tried to get free, get free of any rescue, anything that could remember the barrel. So they cut most of the trees that are cultivated in Rio de Janeiro. Because in the botanical garden of Rio de Janeiro, that's this year 200 years old, there are 4 or 5 plants in the maps, the old maps, but no trees. So recently we found probably 10 or 15 trees of these species in a forest in the state of Minas Gerais, far from where it was originally collected in Rio de Janeiro. So in Rio de Janeiro we survey all the forests in those big mountains. We found anyone? No. So we found those 10, 15 trees in these forests, and now we are monitoring in order to see if they are going to set fruit eventually, so we can photograph and taste, if it's really nice or not. But the City Botanical Garden is spreading seeds all over the world, especially in Brazil. And so far we have already some seedling. I have particularly 2 of them growing in my garden. And I hope someday, if anybody knows anything about this tree, please tell me anything, because we don't know anything. So that's the reason I just put here for this reason. So this picture I got from the internet from the City Botanical Garden. Okay, the main group of Sapotacea are Chrysophyllum and Potheria. Chrysophyllum paranaense, that's another fruit tree grown some parts of the country, originally from the state of Paraná. It's good, and taste particularly looks good. Fruits are nice, fairly sizable, and I think it's potentially interesting as a fruit tree. On the other group important, besides Chrysophyllum and the Potheria, is Maniucara. Maniucara bella, some Maniucaras already in group, but there are some others, like Maniucara bella from the Espírito Santo. Fairly sizable fruit, very good. Maniucara triflora from the sand dunes and beaches along the eastern part of the country. Very sweet, very good, a little bit milky, but when it's particularly ripe, it's very good. Not big, of course, in fruits. Necrophilis in another genus. There are not many species in this genus. Also potential, eventually cultivated in some domestic gardens. Potheria durlandi, another interesting little fruit from the eastern part of the country, mainly Rio de Janeiro, Espírito Santo, South Bahia. Potheria macrocarpa, it's also from the eastern part of the country. In the book we presented probably 6 or 7 species, and most of them has this type of like canistel, it's semi-fatty pulp, very sweet, very good, but a little bit fatty. Potheria macrocarpa is one of those large trees usually. Potheria pariri, that's much more interesting. It's completely different in texture of the pulp. It looks like fiber, but it's not fiber in fact. Just looks like a fiber, and it's very good. It's from eastern Amazon. Potheria pariri, the tree is big like that. Potheria procella is from southern Bahia. Also very delicious, not big, but I would consider potentially interesting as a fruit. Potheria psamophila, another one from southern Bahia, a little bit larger fruit, I would say good. This is Potheria salicifolia from deep south, a short tree, a little bit milky, but good. Completely different taste, Because most of the Poterias, they taste like canistel or like a bill. Poteria speciosa, oh, well, that's probably the most outstanding of this group. It's the famous Pajurá de Óbidos, called this. It's located, of course, just in one area along the Amazon River in the city of close to the city of Santarém, Pará, state of Pará. So it's really delicious. It's large, as you can see, and then very potential for using. Yes, okay. Poteria uguki. It's completely different one. Poteria uguki is like somewhat like a mamey. Poteria zapota.
The last one, please.
Back it up.
Number 4.
She's working on it. Relax.
Back one.
Okay, I don't know how to back up this. So.
The arrow to the left.
Okay, it's Poteria uguki. It's also from Central Amazon. Very good. The people love it over there, and it's, looks like this the one that you have over here, the Colombian, but of course it tastes a little bit different. It's got a little bit sourness.
Too far.
Okay, I have in my place kind of botanic garden. I go probably today we have probably close to 6,000 species, but of course we grow not just fruit. We collect anything that's interesting along the country, and we have of course some fruits too. But mainly ornamental stuff like palms, and we have probably virtually all Brazilian species of palm. And the other groups that we collect are Keseriaceae, Begoniaceae, Bignoniaceae, climbing Bignoniaceae, trees, regular Brazilian trees, the aroids. We have probably all Brazilian aroids, close to 500 species. And of course, anything that's interesting as a fruit tree, we try to grow over there. We have been collecting for many years, even though the garden has got just 6-7 years old, because we bought this land 7 years ago. I don't know what's happening with this system here. I'm familiar with this, so. Okay, in the Poteria family, in the Sapotes family, we have some more Poterias. It's a large group, as I told you. We have probably more than 300 species in the country, and I would say lots of them are edible fruit. It's got edible fruit. In the family of passion fruit. We have 135 species considered for Brazil, and in the last 3 years we started trying to collect all the species. So far we got up to 122 species, and in this process of finding those known passiflora species, we found extra 80 new species. So probably we have in the country around 150 species of passiflora. And I would say at least 80% of those produce large edible fruits. So the only ones cultivated in the country are Passiflora edulis, the sour type of passion fruit that you grow over here, and also Passiflora alata. That is the one we call sweet passion fruit. Just 2 species, so we have a great potential for growing passion flower over there. There are some very interesting ones with the garlic flavor, with onion flavor, sweet, and the garlic flavor. Some big ones, we have some that produces up to 2 or 3 kilos food. Some small, but also good. And some are not really edible. But I would say at least 80 species of Brazilian passiflora could be considered a fruit, potentially a fruit, but they are not cultivated. And they are not easy to cultivate. When you bring together in the same spot to cultivate them, it starts appearing lots of problems, diseases and viruses and everything. So it's not easy to cultivate. So we should have a large area in order to spread the species far apart, so the disease would be a problem. So we have been fairly successful, to say, in gathering all these species. But some of them were described probably 200 years ago and probably are extinct already. But I consider 123 species so far fairly good. So out of 133 or 34, I would consider very good. Another group that probably would be potentially interesting is as I told you already, the Criso balanese. There are some very unusual stuff. In the Vitae family, for instance, we have some cissus, lots of cissus. They are related to the grape family, to the grapes. Of course, the sizes are the same, the shape are the same, but the flavor is completely different. So we have 3 or 4 cissus, very potentially interesting for growing. They're usually vines like grapes, but with completely different flavor. In taste completely different. What else we have? Let's see. Look at here. Okay, I would like to leave this list to Chris and this reproduce and distribute if somebody wants. Well, we are almost close to the end. The Solanus family, we have something. A little bit. In the Theophrastacea, we have some details. Okay, basically, I think we were almost close to the end. So, if anybody has any question, I'll be glad to answer if they can.
I mean, these are all very exciting, the ones we've seen plus the ones in the book. Will we ever be able to see any of these or any of the plants with all the new regulations and rules and things about seeds and plants?
Yeah, I was planning to bring some seeds, but after I read the new regulation of this country, I decided not to bring them. So there's a new regulation over here too. Somebody sent me some written material. You know, for taking out the country, Brazil, as a commercial base, it's complicated, very bureaucratic. I have been sending seeds to friends all over the world. I never had any problem. Of course, sending by mail, but I always avoid taking along with me, especially to get into the United States to provide any problem. So, if anybody wants something, we don't have all those cultivated over there at my garden, but I have some, and I travel very often to all over the country. We do probably one big expedition every month, not to different parts of the country. And we always collect seeds when we go, and we distribute, because we plant just a few for our garden, and they distribute. Anybody are interested in some, we can send, especially small seeded fruit, because big ones are much more complicated. You know, if anybody eventually wants to go to Brazil and make some trip to see those some wild habitats, to see some plants, I'll be glad to take them. I just had Larry Noblick from the Montgomery Foundation Research Center for looking at the palms. So in 1 week trip along the southeastern part of the country, 6,000 kilometers, he was able to see 10 new species, because he went to Brazil just to see new species of the Cyagrus and the Butia. So we skip some because you're too far from that route that we planted. So you was able to see 10 new species of Cyagrus and Mutia, and he's going to describe, we're going to describe together those new species, because we have probably 15 or 16 new species of palm not described yet, and we are planning to put out a new edition of these Brazilian palm books. We want to include everything that is considered native to Brazil, but we need to describe those new species. So we always taking visitors from abroad, these doctors to go along in our expeditions. Usually the expeditions take 10 days, 15 maximum 10, 15 days, up to 2,000 kilometers from our base. We go by pickup truck, and the farther than that we go by commercial airplane. So it's easy to cover most of the country that way. So anybody is interested, we'll be glad to take it. Okay? But if anybody else has got any question, I'll be glad to answer. I think it's almost to the end of the year.
I would like to know, among the people here, how many people have any of these things you mentioned? For example, I have Camponesia, which after 20 years is flowering this year. Salacia, which is still small but 15 years old. Some unidentified mercy areas that are quite large but haven't flowered yet. I'd like to know if there's some others of these. And of course the Campong has that Cryptophyllum and Perion.
Like, this means that she's not going to do well, because anything in Brazil that are native, if it doesn't flower in 6-7 years, forget it. It should, any tree is supposed to start reproducing after 7 years old, 27 years old, some less than that, but usually, rarely ones start later than that. So, probably those species want to do well in these conditions. But we have lots of species along the seashore that grows in the sand dunes, in very shallow soils. It is kind of very tropical like here. So I think there are a great potential for Brazilian fruits to be introduced in this country to grow in conditions of Florida conditions. Yeah.
Along those same lines, if we were looking at your book, the one that was outside, and we wanted to figure out which regions of Brazil were most compatible with our map.
Stop.
Start again.
Just take a glance. Okay, answering the question down there. I would say that anything that grows in Brazil in the southeastern part, along the seashore, are potential for growing here in this country. So everything that they presented here from the Espírito Santo, Bahia, and the Rio de Janeiro, for sure they'll do well here, like that Salacia, New Salacia, anything that grows along the sand dunes, along the seashore, for sure will do well here in the Florida's conditions. Okay?
Thank you.